Hey guys, this is Charles Blair, the mad scientist, and I am with mastermind student extraordinaire,
Tony Roberts.
and we are on the way to one of the deals. My brother Tony just got under contract. How long ago you got this deal under contract?
This is about a week ago.
Got it under contract a week ago, and man, this is a sweet deal. Now we are going to the Woodlawn community of Baltimore, which is a fantastic county area, and they got some great opportunities. As a matter of fact, in this area, there's always been a great homeowner area. 1, wholesale, 2, buy and hold, 3, rehab. This is a great area. Now tell us a little bit about this opportunity that we're going to. First and foremost, how did you come across it?
I came across this deal here, driving for dollars, which is my favorite.
Now, guys, in the mastermind, we teach our students a particular way to do driving for dollars. And it's not the normal way where you just drive around and write down addresses. Tell people exactly how you do driving for dollars that's different than what other people do it and the way they do it.
All right. So what most people do is they would just drive around the neighborhood and not have any contact, just collect the addresses and then skip trace.
Right.
What we do here is we would actually interact with the community. So we get out there, we find the properties, and then not only do we write down the addresses, but we door knock. Exactly. So we'll knock on that door. We'll knock on the neighbor's doors to the right, to the left, across the street, just to see if we could find out some information on the subject property that we're talking about.
Exactly, and that's a very good point that Tony brings up. The old gurus and some investors out there tell you to go drive around, go around, write down addresses, and then go home and skip trace. You got to get into the actual knowing if that property really is vacant. Because just because it looks empty, or just because there's repairs that needed to be based on the exterior of the property, doesn't mean that it's a vacant property. So you have to knock on that door and see if somebody's living there. Now, what indicators are you looking at, Tony, to say, okay, this could be a good opportunity when you're driving for dollars? What are you looking at that house?
Perfect. Okay, so what I look for and what we've been taught to look for is we would look for overgrown lawn, right? The landscaping is messed up. We're looking for exterior repairs that need to be done on the property, specifically the roof or any kind of window treatments or anything like that needs to be completed. You can look at some of these properties and tell, but one thing that I like is on trash day, if you drive through the neighborhood and their trash can isn't on the curb, you know nobody's there. Right. Nobody's most likely there, and that's a good property to target and skip trace, knock on doors.
Which you bring up a real secret strategy, or should I say a secret context to look at. If you're driving a neighborhood on a regular basis, know what days are trash days and which days aren't. Because just like you just mentioned, you could drive that neighborhood on trash day and then know that, okay, this house doesn't have any trash cans being set out, or maybe this could be a vacant property as well. That's a great underground approach to look at when you're doing driving for dollars. Now, what type of neighborhoods are you concentrating on when you do this?
Well, I'm concentrating on neighborhoods that have a high level of activity with contractors in the neighborhood or with buyers in the neighborhood. So if I'm driving through the neighborhood and I see a lot of construction going on, or I see a lot of dumpsters out there, then I know that this is a neighborhood that has a lot of activity, and also that it's one that I kind of want to target and get to know the neighborhood and the properties in that neighborhood in order to move forward.
That's a good approach, and also I want you guys to keep in mind the driving for dollars strategy is another great way for you to build your realtors list. It's a great way for you to build your contractors list. It's a great way to look at the value of what things are selling. And the ways in which you can do that is, one, when you're driving for dollars, you look for properties that are going to have an open house, or properties where you got people doing work in them, and you can walk in those properties, knock on those doors, and ask the actual contractors, hey, are you looking for new business? Hey, can I walk through the property and see what it looks like? Hey, when you have a open house and you're driving through neighborhoods, see what the rehab was done in that property, see what they're selling for, and give you a great context as to what the value is in that neighborhood. Because you got to understand, the neighborhoods and the streets that you drive through, you want to be the expert of that neighborhood. You want to know that as soon as something comes available, as soon as something comes on the market, you already know about it 2 weeks ahead of time, because you've been driving that neighborhood like clockwork. And not only do you know the neighborhood as it comes to value, but you can even get to know the people in that neighborhood, the actual stores and stuff in that neighborhood. Introduce yourself as that person that's looking for deals in that neighborhood so that people can reach out to you. Have door hangers. One of the things I teach my students is these types of door hangers that you see right here are door hangers that you could put on the actual properties as you're driving through, as you're knocking on doors, to actually familiarize yourself and make yourself in that neighborhood as a part of a reason for that person or persons to want to sell their property to you.
Yes, sir.
Now, let's go back to this particular deal we're driving to right now. It's a deal where you got under contract, and it's a deal where it's not your typical deal. Tell them a little bit about the history of the actual previous owner of this deal and what's going on.
Okay. So the previous owner of this property bought the property 30 years ago. Never made any updates or anything like that in the property, and was actually a hoarder. Wow. So he had a ton of stuff in this property, and the family spent a lot of money in order to clean this place out. And honestly, Charles, when I went there, it was still a ton of stuff in there. It was still $5,000 worth of stuff inside. And
you're talking about as far as that needs to be moved out, you literally had loads of stuff that could easily cost you over $5,000 just to move the stuff out of the property.
Easy.
Yeah, and when Tony called me about this deal, I didn't notice the hesitation in regards to the property, but he shot a video showing people, man, this got to be the worst house I ever been into. And I remember chuckling at that video, because we look at houses like that as money makers.
That's right.
And you know that.
That's right. That's right.
When you hear the worst house ever, you hear the biggest profit ever.
That's right. That's
so
right.
Think in terms of that. The worst and biggest can come, and should I say, can merge together in one profitable situation. So the person was a herder, and I think they passed away, right?
Yes. So passed away about a year ago, and the mortgage has been not paid for that amount of time. So for the whole year, it's behind a significant amount that the family didn't want to be responsible for making those payments.
Right.
They had already spent money to clean the place out just to be able to get in and out of the place.
Right.
And then so I received a call from the executor of the estate.
Now think about that. It's so much easier to close a deal when the person is calling you. Well, people are probably wondering, well, how is this executive closing you? Well, that's because of another strategy that we use in the mastermind to not only have you skip trace them. So what do you do additionally that most people don't do when they find a vacant property? What do you do?
All right. So what I did was, after I knocked on the door and determined that it was vacant, I left a letter. I left a letter right on the front door.
Guys, you heard that. Leave a letter on the front door, and there's a couple ways in which we do this. One, you could leave a letter by way of a FedEx. This is an underground strategy. One of those FedEx envelopes. Put the letter in the FedEx envelope and leave that at the front door, or just leave a letter at the front door, because you know sooner or later that somebody's going to come there and check the mail on that property if the right circumstance is here for that property. And one of the things you also noticed about the property was it had a lock on it, right?
It had a padlock on the front door. So the you know, the entire door had a plate on it, and then the padlock was on it. So I knew that nobody was using that as a residence, you know, at that point. So that was a security measure in order to keep people out,
right,
and let them know this place isn't available, or don't touch it.
Right. Now, which brings us to the point of the person who was the personal representative that we later found out reached out to you because of that letter you left on the front door.
That's right.
What happened next?
That's right. So she called and you know, introduced herself and said she found the letter. We talked a little bit, and then we immediately set up an appointment to go see the place. And which she mentioned, this is the worst house you're ever gonna see. So we went out there. So we went ahead and did the appointment and checked out the place. And she wasn't too confident in what could be done with the property. She just thought it was a lost cause.
Right.
She was prepared to just count it as a loss and move on, let the bank take it. In which we had a different strategy.
Yep.
For it.
At that point in time, Tony called me up, said, hey, this is what I got. What do you think we could do with it? We found out that the actual mortgage was behind. So the first thought that I came to mind was short sale.
Yes.
And here's exactly why. Because there are certain characteristics that you want to make sure that's in place in order to even start or consider a short sale process in the property. And these are some of the main characteristics. One, what type of loan is on that property? Two, is the property has significant damage. The more damage, the better the opportunity to get a bank to say yes to not only your short sale, but yes to the dollar amount you're going to short sale it to. And number three, you want to also have, and this is one of the most important parts, what's the hardship of that person and why did that property come behind on mortgage? As we already discussed, the reason why this property came behind on mortgage is because the person passed away. So they was deceased. Or, and this is one of the best parts about this process, how many months behind, if any? If a property is going to be considered for a short sale, the property must be behind on mortgage. This one was almost over a year behind on mortgage. So we had all of these characteristics, not to mention number 5, significant work needed to be done in the property. The person was a hoarder. We had issues in this property where I think a couple ceilings that came down or something. We had issues in this property where it was holes in the walls. I mean, it was all kinds of things wrong with this property, which made us ring that, what we call the cash money bell. Ding, ding, ding. That means this property is a good deal or good opportunity for a short sale.
Yes, sir.
So we're ready to pull up on the property right now. So just stand by. We're going to break down the numbers that count. Once we get inside, we're going to take you through the walk through the property, and then we're going to go over the numbers that count. Bye-bye. Hey guys, this is Charles Blair, the Mad Scientist, and I'm with Mastermind Student Extraordinaire,
Tony Roberts.
Now, you just saw the inside of this property. And just like we talked about when you're doing driving for dollars, you want to look for the worst looking property in a great neighborhood. And we're in a fantastic area of Woodlawn. The value in this area is extremely high. It's what we call a homeowner neighborhood. So let's go over the actual
numbers that count. Now, Tony, tell me, what was the price you got this under contract for?
$60,000.
So we got it under contract for 60, and how much repairs we think are needed?
$75,000.
So we're about $75,000 worth of repairs, $60,000 contract price, $75,000 worth of repairs. That add up to a total of about $135,000. Now, the great part about this deal is the fact that the value is easily
$235,000.
So we got $235,000 on the value. We got a situation where this property is going to fly off the market. Like I said, this is going to be a short sale, and I know for a fact we got the short sale queen handling the short sale on this deal. It's going to happen. We may be able to get it lower than $60,000. So remember, it's all about condition of the property. It's all about the actual hardship that the seller has. It's all about the actual location of the property, and it's all about how many months behind is that owner, so that you can determine if this is going to be a great short sale opportunity. This is Charles Blair, the Mad Scientist, with
Tony Roberts.
and we'll see you in the next deal.